there are two that I would say are the hardest to prepare for. Number one is your first exam. Your first exam is the most difficult to prepare for in most cases. I don't know how much time we have, but let me just quickly give you a little vignette of what happened to me on my first exam. This was way back to some people. For me, it was not that long ago. In 1996, and I was working for a training company, and I was the first one in the training company to get a technical certification. And so I went off to take my exam for a Windows workstation, NT4 workstation, and I failed it. What I had done is I had created packs of note cards in order to do my exam. And when I went there, I had never seen an exam before. This was my first time seeing an exam. And I failed it by a few points. I later on obviously went back and passed it and finished the MCSE and many times and so on. However, so that first one is the big one. Now, the next ones that are just hard to pass. If you look down in this chart, you will see one of the first ones that I would say is difficult to pass, which is the CEH. The CEH has two components. Certified Ethical Hacker has a knowledge component and a practical component. If you pass both of those, you become a CEH master. If you only pass the knowledge component, you become a CEH. One of the issues, which is a good thing with CEH, is they are constantly taking the new technologies. So for instance, you might be going for another security certification, and they follow a path that gives you the basic security areas, which I don't have time to go into right now, but then you go to the CEH and they're asking you about Docker, and they're asking you about Kubernetes. They're asking you about IoT and OT because they update it, they upgrade it. So that's probably one of the hardest ones to get. And then after that, if you look at the SAEs, some of these are difficult to get. If you look at the management level, the CISSP is traditionally a difficult one to get, but it is only knowledge-based. One of the things that we see that shook out of this chart that you don't see anymore is you don't see any more of the Cisco certifications. At least I think maybe some of them are covered up at the bottom. But the upper level Cisco certifications are also very difficult. I remember taking a CCNP Cisco certification, and one of the things they had me do was like, this router needs DSL. Configure the router for DSL. And then you open up an interface and you have to configure the whole thing. With the CEH practical, it says, this computer has, there's a computer on the network running a Linux operating system that has an exposed area. Find the computer and then hack the FTP server, right? So those are practical. Those are things where you have to do configuration, and those tend to be the most difficult to study for, take the longest, but they have the best return.